speakers. So we have joining us from Brazil, we have Victor and Fernando. Victor is the head of Think Future, and Fernando is the managing partner of a very well-known Brazilian firm called Tozzini Freire. And so, Victor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was trying to open my video, but it was blocked. Now I'm allowed. So thank you, Roland. I'm waiting for Fernando to open his video as well. I think he's got some problems.
Now I have the authorization.
Hello, gentlemen. It's nice to have you. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to learning about what you're working on in Brazil.
Great.
So I'm sharing the screen here, and Fernando, you can begin.
Yeah, go ahead, put the second slide. Thanks a lot for the invitation to speak briefly about Tozzini Freire, our innovation program named Think Future, and two of our recently developed projects. First of all, about Tozzini, we are a 44 years old law firm with 1,100 employees, 7 offices, 6 in Brazil, and 1 rep office in New York. We have 520 lawyers and more than 80 partners. Go ahead. We cover all the fields of law, and we only work with Brazilian law matters. Go ahead, Victor. We praised diversity as a value of our company, and we assembled in our program that we call TF Inclusão, TF Inclusion, our diversity, pro bono, and sense of community activities. As regards diversity, we have several initiatives and affinity groups on gender, race, people with disabilities, LGBTI+, and refugees equality. The pathway that led us to Think Future started several years ago when we started to build our teams, not only based on fields of law, but also on industries. So we decided to go open space at the end of 2006. So we are an open space law firm since for more than 15 years. Tozzini Freire began its technology and compliance practices more than 12 years ago. 7 years ago, we opened our startups and innovation practice. And finally, 3 years ago, we created Think Future, our innovation program. In our Think Future program, you can pass one slide, Victor.
Here it's already this one or the other?
No, that's okay. That's okay. In our Think Future program, we include lawyers and non-lawyers of the firm, and the matters that the program covers are information technology, communications, business development, human resource, and institutional relations. If you want to jump in, Victor.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I think something happened here. I was remember that slide, but I think PowerPoint just cut off this presentation for some reason. But so our program is not designed just to promote innovation within the firm, but also to prepare our lawyers for such matters and also to develop and design new solutions for the clients. Basically, we plan and develop innovative solutions for clients and our professionals. We encourage and reveal our internal mindset, and we also promote digital and cultural transformation to improve our expertise in matters regarding technology and innovation. We might say that this is also a result from the Brazil scenario. Just to tell you a bit of how we are facing the legal marketplace here, we have more than 1,200,000 lawyers, 1,755 law schools, and 156 from mid to large size legal techs, not considering here early and seed stage legal techs. This is the radar from the Brazilian Law Techs and Legal Techs Association to see that it's a very diverse and a very competitive marketplace, not just by law firms or consultancies, but also by a huge amount of legal tech companies and ALSPs or other kinds of service providers. And the main doubt here is how to take advantage of such this amount of solutions that we see in the market. There's a bunch of opportunities here, like an outstandingly huge menu, and how do we select, how to implement, and what is our part into all of this? So the first thing is to understand innovation not just as technology, it's also a cultural kind of approach. So we present in Think Future, within Think Future, a multidisciplinary approach for innovation, comprising not just legal tech, as I said, but also legal operations, service design, knowledge, visual law, and client experience and relationship, and every other thing that's not the common part of providing a legal service. The other part is how are we part of the ecosystem? So to gather information and to provide content and to help the development, not just the national, but also the international legal tech ecosystems. We are active parts of the Brazilian Association of Legal Techs and Law Techs, as I said, but we are also members of CLOC, Asia Pacific Legal Innovation and Technology Association. And this is a particularly special thing because I met Paul Neo from Alita in Future Law CodeX 2019, which was one of the last time that I could be with Roland in person. So I missed that a lot. And ILTA, the International Legal Technology Association, and other major members of the innovation ecosystem in Brazil and abroad. And just to bring something on how we are trying to build the future present law firm. And I say always future present because what we were thinking it would be future in the last years is already present, right? So COVID proved us that we needed to change, but we were also, as Fernando said in the beginning, in a track of change since we were founded in 44 years ago. And what is the future present law firm that we are trying to achieve? We have some main goals that I call so far because it's constantly changing. But basically, as someone says here, Nanapa says multidisciplinary teams, and we are talking about multidisciplinary legal services, bringing lawyers and non-lawyers to the same table and incorporating non-lawyers also for our service. High-speed operations and deals, how to be more efficient in M&A deals or corporate deals, provide real-time information for client, not just to be called for consults. We need to provide real-time information on their hands, fast and accurate due diligence and other repetitive tasks approach, to take decisions using data. So we need to be a data-driven organization, to use artificial intelligence analytics and outcomes prediction for litigation purposes, and also to be flexible and collaborative as a 21st century law firm. Fernando, do you have anything else? Please feel free to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I'd like to invite everyone to get to know our program in more details. We have a fully open propositions here that if you scan the QR code, you'll be taken directly to our hot side, talking about how we are approaching legal technology in a more detailed way, the 6 axes of transformations, because I'd like to jump a bit quicker to open time for questions for our case presentations. So we have selected 2 cases here that were produced with help of our innovation program. The first is a TF litigation analytics, and the second is a COVID-19 regulatory dashboards. We were first thinking about presenting just analytics, but I saw in the last Future Law last month that you have Current Atlas. So I said it might be interesting for them to see how we are dealing with information regarding COVID-19 business restrictions. TF litigation analytics, basically it's what the name says. We are providing real-time, intuitive, and detailed litigation data for our clients. Just to clarify, we have 2 major litigation groups here in the firm, one based on large profile cases and other based on large volume cases. So combining both, you generate lots of data, and we have this data with us, and we needed to provide them to our clients to help them to take better decisions. So basically, how are we going to deliver such data for our clients? Simple reports or Word documents or an Excel sheet, it will work, but we needed to do something much more tangible or intuitive for our clients to really help their decision making. Talking a bit about the development, I see that someone asked for Martin about the programming language of his systems, but here we're talking about a .NET programming language. Our whole database is in Oracle, so granting all confidentiality and information security protections for litigation case data. And so far, this program was launched in 2018. We're talking about more than 250 process entries so far in specific client projects. How does it work? If it's not a new client, we need to gather their data, because the main reason here that we are able to provide such products and such services to the client is that they are our clients. So their litigation data are under our representation. So we have the data in our systems. But if it's a new client, we need to gather this data into onboarding processes. Just to clarify here, we are not allowed to sell non-legal services in Brazil, as in some states, or majorly in the states in the US as well, or in the globe. So we need, this is a legal service. We are not selling or licensing software. We are trying to bring clients to provide better information when we are representing them into litigation cases. The second point is, how do we plan? Each client has specific need or specific needs regarding which data they need to better understand. So there's no like a ready base. We need to understand better the clients needs to build together their dashboards or their screens. 3 is the development. Here is with us. The 4th is the launch, in which we provide the clients full access to the dashboards. And it's important to highlight here is that we have, this is a project developed not just by Think Future, because we don't have a tech team within Think Future, but in a partnership between our innovation program and our IT team. But in Enforce, that we said that we have like a multidisciplinary approach for innovation. We work in squads. We try to make improvements in that way, not just hiring IT people for innovation, but using our already developed structures. Some examples here of what a client can see. This is a real screen from.
I think that you should jump to the other project, because for us to give time for the kept questions.
Wonderful. So this is just a few examples of our screens here. Just jumping to the next one. The COVID-19 regulatory dashboards, it was first developed for a specific client. We're talking about a major retail chain in Brazil with more than 950 stores nationwide. We had a problem here, not just a problem, but as in the US, basically cities and states in Brazil were allowed to put their restrictions on business operations, like business operating hours or kinds of products that could be sold, or some specific rules for social distancing. So you can imagine, like, this large retail chain with more than 900 stores, they were heavily impacted by the diversity of rulings that they found in many cities. So sometimes they lost track of all new regulation that impacted their operations in 2020. And when the year began and the pandemics was not ending, as it's not so far, they needed to better plan for 2021, and they gave us 15 days for us to provide a full and detailed report about federal, state, and city laws that could have affected their stores from March 2020 to 2021. Just highlighting here, we are a law firm, we are not a software firm, but we did everything in 15 days as they requested. A bit of data here, a few stats for you. We have found and analyzed more than 630 laws, 8 dashboard versions, 115 work hours per person in average, 3 versions for the report, and 2 data gathering robots helping lawyers to better map the laws. Basically, what we saw is that we could deliver this, okay, like an Excel sheet with all the informations. The client could jump into all filter and understand which decree or which laws were closing their business in 2020. But instead of this was the base of all the work, the first part of the research, but we have delivered the full report, totally intuitive, with clicking links, all using the visual law and legal design techniques, so they can navigate better into every data here, with more than 250 pages. But this is the most important part of the work. We have inputted all the data into a dashboard, so they can have access to every single information that we gathered into a more intuitive and dynamic way, using filters, selecting if they want to see the monthly evolution, and if it's in March, what were the restrictions in a specific city like Sao Paulo, for example. And I brought here a bit of our story developed in the dashboard, because it's important to see how a law firm had an MVP, then a first version with no data, and this was fully developed in 15 years. It's a totally different project comparing to the analytics. It's totally different projects, programming language, and everything else, and a bit of final version here. I wish I could show you the functional version, but it's totally in Portuguese, and we have client data there, so I have decided just to print some screens here. Sorry if I spoke too fast, but I don't know if Fernando has some input to make from now on.
Only a correction, 15 days, not years.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, 15 years. No, it was 15 days. This was the most impressive part of the project. I'm sorry.
Are you taking questions?
Of course. I don't know if someone has any questions.
Yeah,
here.
I do. That's very interesting and very impressive. And thank you for sharing with us. I think we often hear about the challenges that law firms have in embracing legal technology, not just law firms, and there's some obstacles that are commonly cited as barriers for legal innovation, and those are gatekeeping regulations like unauthorized practice of law, fee sharing, fee splitting rules, the tradition of the billable hour to measure the units that went into creating a legal product. And so there are all these obstacles out there, and I'm curious how you as a firm approached both the external obstacles as well as the internal obstacles, which is the hesitancy of the partnership to embrace new technologies, to create this innovation effort, to create a system where you're producing technology for your clients. And if you could share a little bit how this issue kind of plays out in Brazil, I think that would be very interesting.
Roland, first of all, I think that since the beginning, since in our founding partners, we decided to go to be a benchmark in technology. So I think that our culture, in a certain way, help us a lot. So we don't have a lot of restriction or even problems with the partners to invest money in technology. One of the things that is a big problem, and we are seeing that in artificial intelligence in Brazil, is the language. It's a pity that we speak Portuguese and not Spanish or English. So we have to move some technology that is made in for English language or Spanish language to Portuguese, which is quite difficult and requires a lot of investment. One of the things that is preventing our AI projects is money that we have to invest because of that. And we have some regulatory issues with the Brazilian bar. As Vitor mentioned, we can sell any other type of service, but only legal services. If we decide to develop software or something like that, we have to create another legal entity, and it should be completely separated from the law firm structure. Otherwise, it's not legal for us to act. So I think that those are the main issues that we have in Brazil.
Got it. I think Josh
just
has
to
a
compliment. I'm sorry, Roland. Sorry, we spoke together. Sorry.
I just want to add to that, but then I want to turn it over to Josh, who has a question.
No, just to complement, as Fernando said, yes, we have this regulatory issue, but this also helps us to be more cooperative and collaborative. I showed you like more than 150 legal techs, and we have more than 10 projects ongoing with all of them. So basically, when we're not allowed to do something because of regulatory issues, it's better for us to provide feedback for the legal ecosystem and to use their solutions and to help them develop their solutions. I'm sorry, Roland, to interrupt you.
Cool. That's great. Okay, Josh.
Hi, great. Thank you guys for the presentation. One thing I've been curious about, or at least with your system, is do you find it easier to work with and structure the data because you work in a civil code system? I ask because I've seen a lot of research on law as code, and a lot of it has been based on European legislation, where at least in the United States, we have a lot more work. We have to work with annotators and things like that. Does that make it easier to compile data on specific regulations and laws?
Yeah, Josh, not only the civil law system, but also the fact that if we're speaking about lawsuits, we have only one civil procedure code, so the rules are the same all around the country. And the other point is that the Brazilian courts are very well equipped, and they have invested a lot in software and hardware. So we are moving from, I think that in 1 or 2 years, we are going to have 100% paperless lawsuits in Brazil. And more, we are moving from paper to non-paper lawsuit, and the systems are in a certain way also connected, so it's easy to gather data from the court systems of each state of Brazil. Those are things that help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Victor, and then we have to turn over to our next speaker. But go, Victor, please.
Great. Yeah, just another compliment about the Brazilian Legal Tax and Law Tax Association. They are heavily interactive courts and Brazilian government to provide legal technology for usage of public sector. So basically, it's easier for legal tech in Brazil today to connect their systems, so like robots, for example, into a court's API to gather data and to provide like dashboards. But our work here uses specifically data that are already in our systems, or that we capture them from a litigation purposes to represent the clients. So we are not connecting to any API here for both cases that we presented.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fascinating. I think really helpful for other lawyers who may be in the audience who are thinking about how to sort of, create an innovation program at their firm. And those are some really good, there's a lot of food for thought, I think, and a great example. So thank you also for sharing the concrete examples you're working on. And it's nice to see, I've known that there's a lot of energy in the Brazilian legal innovation community, and it's nice to see, this great example from one of the leading firms in Brazil. So thank you so much for joining us, and yeah, big round of applause for you.
Thank you.
And yeah, please stay safe, and please keep us posted.
Yeah, please drop your email into the chat if you would, so that our audience can get in touch if they'd like.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
I hope next time we'll be in person, Roland.
I look forward to that, Victor. I very much look forward to that. All right. Well, thank you again. All right. So then let's turn it over to Tom and our last presentation for today, which is Stephen.
Hi, Roland.
Stephen,
thank you so much. Yes,
there
I am.
you are.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
It's been a little while since we talked last, but I'm excited to learn where you are with Tom. I think it's for many of the investors and startups in the community. It's going to be interesting what you have to say. So over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you also, Susan, for your kind assistance in getting everything set up today. I really appreciate it. And hello to the LegalX community, the CodeX community. It's really a great pleasure to speak with you today. And I'm looking forward. I think we're going to have a great time for the next 10 minutes here. My name is Stephen Trusheim. I'm the founder and CEO of Tome, and Tome makes contracts easy. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Here's how the product works. Step one, you receive 160 pages of really dense contracts. This is a thing that I've done a lot in my life. This example right here is 160 pages of what it takes to make an equity investment in a private company in Silicon Valley. It's about 90,260 words. It would take you about 6 hours to read this contract if you read it end to end and you were a speed reader. I'm not particularly a speed reader. In our platform, step one, you upload this entire 160-page blob of text into our system. Step two, our system reads every single word of this text. We run it through exactly the kinds of systems you'd think we're going to run it through in order to get the text out of there. We split it apart using our custom software into clauses. We compare every single one of those clauses to our database of every clause that's ever come before it in approximately the history of time. We don't have every clause. Sometimes we'll miss some, but those clauses are probably not very common because we don't have them in our database. It's almost a tautology. Now, the contract that you just uploaded, the 160 pages of text, is represented by a graph in the computer science sense. We know what the clauses are. We've compressed it down into basically just bits of information. And we can tell you what those bits of information are. We build products on top of that graph of information. Here's our first product. It's called the Tome Report. This is basically a term sheet. When one negotiates a startup venture capital investment, you start with a term sheet, it becomes 160 pages of documents, and we're completing the loop to let you make it back into a term sheet. This is a comprehensive and reliable summary of the document. It's comprehensive because we've read every word, and it's reliable because we use the same standards to translate the same text into the same thing every single time. This is an exhausting process. It's mind-numbing for a human to be able to do it, but computers really just don't mind reading the same text so far, approximately 82,000 times every single word that comes into our system. These are, in fact, all of the 10 important points that I care about when I'm making a venture capital investment. But of course, this isn't just like the only piece of content we have available. You can use this content even still to compare it against your standards. So for example, if your general counsel says we don't accept indemnity provisions of this variety, or if your boss says, hey, can you make sure that the numbers are all ticked and tied and everything's 100% perfect with this? You say, well, yes, I can, because I just had the system do it for me and it's all right here. If something's unusual, if something's not the way it's supposed to be, we will simply flag it with a giant orange exclamation mark and an explanation of why we think it doesn't match your standards or the standards of other people that you might care about. We also, if you don't have standards for a contract, which is, very common, most people don't execute a lot of mortgages or execute a lot of venture. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't do a lot of these deals or anything like that. We can give you standards. We know what the regular stuff is, and we can tell you if this is the regular stuff or if it's not. And of course, as I was saying, you can also zoom in. So in a liquidation preference clause, you can summarize it as 1x non-participating preferred liquidation preference. That's a complete way to explain many paragraphs of text, but there's actually about 35, maybe 40 facts that go into what exactly liquidation preference is. And so we'll tell you what each one of those facts are. It's just more data in our database. Now, exposing it in the right way, making it beautiful, helping you through the process of understanding what that means, that's the hard part. And for example, I'll tell you for free right now that in 2021 in Silicon Valley, there's an entire subfield of this exact clause where it's like a 50-50 split in the community between whether escrow proceeds are to be treated as additional consideration or if they're to be treated as initial consideration. And so we'll just tell you which one you have in the contract. Now, what you should do with that information, what is good or bad, and how exactly you should navigate the situation from that point forward. Well, that's something you might want to talk to a lawyer about. It's something you might want to talk to your board of directors about. It's something that you might want to talk to a venture capitalist like me about. But what your document says kind of has an empirical truth to it, and that's what we help you find out. Now, this kind of detailed view is super helpful for a lawyer or for someone like me who cares deeply about what these contracts say, but it's not really all that helpful to people who don't know what these contracts say. And so we'll simply show you the menu of options. For example, in liquidation preference, there's an overwhelming standard here. 1x non-participating preferred, almost all the time is what we see in Silicon Valley. But 2 to 4x non-participating is sometimes seen. There's probably 5% of deals that look like that. And participating preferred is almost completely exceptionally rare at this point, but it's still an important thing to know about so you can understand the full context. And I think it's really important to point out like these nice blue links that just say things like, what is liquidation preference? Most people are a little bit too embarrassed to just admit that they don't remember everything about, I don't remember everything about how liquidation preference works all the time, but it's something I do every day, all day long. So having a link that you can just click on and remind yourself, hey, wait, how is this going to impact my company? Like, what is an indemnity? Can someone just remind me how they all work together? That's the kind of thing that we're going to be able to find. And you don't have to trust me that we're doing the system right. You can review the source text of your contract right away. On the left here is an actual original contract, a PDF contract that we uploaded. This is an investor rights agreement, one of the 5 contracts you sign when you're doing a venture capital investment. And on the right is an authentic alpha screenshot of kind of the really deep, detailed, like in the weeds view of what the contract looks like. And you can see, my cat says hello, and you can see in this contract exactly what the clauses are, what standards they come from, and what else could be there. Now, why is this all important to build? There's a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that big law firms exist. That's the problem. Big law firms exist and they have this kind of interesting structure. There must be some word for this in law. I don't know quite what it would be when there's a pyramid of people and the bottom set does all the work and does like a tremendous amount of kind of like annoying, nuanced, nitpicky work. And then the people at the top make all the money. There must be some word for that. I don't know what it is though. Anyway, though, that kind of triangular structure seems to make about $100 billion per year off of venture capital firms, investment firms, and private investors like myself who just want to execute transactions. In fact, this has been growing over time. Since I was born, the average law firm in the AmLaw 100, the 100 largest law firms in the United States, has more than tripled its revenue. Which is just absolutely insane to me. At the same time, the returns to who gets to get that money have been narrowing as the percentage of equity partners has dropped from 80% to almost 50% today, like almost in half. And the reason they earn all this money is because it's so easy to put a clause in your documents here that says something like, the company's going to pay for your fees up to $40,000. That's a tremendous amount of money. It costs me routinely $120,000 across, the entire investor syndicate, a company, whatever it happens to be, in order to actually close an investment transaction of, let's say, like $5 or $10 million. That's pretty common. So all we want to do is just take that money, redirect it into software, and make a better product out of it. I suffer this pain point very directly. If you look at my LinkedIn or stalk me on the internet, you will find that until recently, my title was partner and head of operations at Signalfire, where I executed more than 450 venture capital investments. I managed the back office as we went from $0 million under management to a $50 million first investment fund to over $1 billion in assets under management. We have about 1.5 today. I'm a Forbes 30 under 30 venture capitalist, which is kind of just a popularity contest, but for Forbes and venture capital, that seems pretty important. I also have a bachelor's and master's degree in computer science from Stanford University, graduated right down the street. Cannot wait to go back to campus. It'll be so nice. I love the place. I'm also not a lawyer. That's important to know. I do work with a lot of lawyers. I think I've spent more than $10 million on lawyers over the course of my life, mostly my company's money. But the problem is that as I got 7 years into doing this job, as 7 years into like really understanding what contracts were, I start working with third-year associates and fourth year and second and fourth. And, these people have less knowledge about what the contracts say and less knowledge about what I care about than I do. And I'm the one who's going to suffer all the consequences of signing a bad deal. The law firms just kind of get to escape into the ether, if you will. And this all leads me to say, computers are better at text. And so we're going to take all the text in the contract and we're going to do a better job analyzing it using computers so that humans can focus on the hard part of being a lawyer, on the human side of it, on helping advise you what you should do now that you know what now that you know what the landscape looks like. And that's why we're building Tome. It's a seed stage SaaS company that's reinventing legal analytics. We're based in San Francisco, California, and we're remote okay. We're backed by the best venture capitalists, and we're starting in venture capital contracts because clearly I know a few things about them. The method that we're using is similar to genetic sequencing. So if you've ever done a genome-wide association survey, you're probably my kind of person. And just to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about, I recently, last night, rewrote our Lexer because it was a little bit too inefficient. For this crowd, I think it's interesting to point out this is about 30 degrees away from computable contracts, which I think is pretty neat. I love the Future Law Talks. Thank you so much for everyone. At Future Law 2021, I had a great time participating silently. I'm here for two reasons. Number one, I'd like you to do research on my data set. This is a real offer. It has to be anonymized and de-identified data. That's sort of what will happen. But if you have an interesting question that you think could be answered better by having a data set, access to real contracts that real people are signing, and deep like token level information about them, I would love to talk to you about what the research product is and how we can make it better. You can read the fine print down below. But more than that, I want you to come work with us, because we need really smart people. We need computer scientists who love law. We need lawyers who love computer science. And we need people who want to make humans not have to read the same blob of text over and over again for the rest of their life. So please, I mean, really here, come work with us. And if you don't want to come work with us, just remember that Tome makes contracts easy. That's what we're up to today. I'd love to hear from you. You can feel free to send me an email, st@usetome.com. If you want to come join the team, tell me how we can make this work better, faster, and cheaper together. And I would love to help work with you to bring law to everyone. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
I'm sold. Can I come work for you?
Sure.
No, it's great. So it's a fantastic product, and certainly a lot of people will understand the frustrations of spending a lot of money for human processes where they're not necessarily the optimal ways to get into information. So what's the right number then, though? If you say, like, you know, for a $5 million deal, you've been spending $120,000 in legal fees. What should a service that helps you understand the actual legal issues that you need to know, what should that be? What's the right number for that?
The cost?
If it's
about $3,000, we'll start there, so
okay.
we can negotiate up.
Okay.
and that's for, again, for just specifically the piece of the pie, the piece of the puzzle that is, what do these contracts say? And perhaps redrafting them, having a one-click experience to say, wait, I don't want that clause, I would like the other one that we could have there instead. That experience, that should not be expensive. Now, the hard part, again, is, you know, negotiating against someone else, you know, like, what should you do? What's good or bad? Like, how should you think about these things? That's all legal advice. Let's go have some great lawyers help you through those like really tricky wildernesses. But let's have them not focus on having a pyramid of associates beneath them who just have to sit there and read documents and then change numbers. So instead of saying the number 1, they say ONE parentheses 1, which is a real thing that I have been charged $24,000 for at one point in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Do folks have any? Oh, okay. Yeah. Bruce is asking, you know, how are you handling state-specific differences in contract law?
So generally, there actually aren't state-specific differences in the most contracts that I deal with, because everyone uses the same form of company, the same set of documents, especially specifically starting in venture capital. Everyone uses Delaware C Corps. Everyone is basically either operating in California or New York. That forms about 80% of the market. And it shouldn't be that way. And there will be state law differences over time. But in the initial phases, we just stay myopically focused on the biggest pie that we can easily address. And then we'll go do all the harder stuff as we have a larger team that can deal with more complexity. And it's all just data to the system. I mean, you have a state law difference over here. We'll compare it back to what's the kind of the main thing that most people do. And we can tell you how it's different.
Okay. Martin is saying Tome looks great, and Aaron's asking, which financing round is this effective for? Yeah, we're going to start with Series Seed documents. They're super easy, or Series Seed rounds, I should say. Series Seed is a specific kind of document as well. We're going to start with seed rounds, and then as we grow our company from our seed round, we're going to go deal with A rounds, and then B rounds, and then C rounds, and then we'll go on from there. We'll probably also take a look at SPACs and debt deals along the way, because those are very common company level questions that we suffer. You know, how many times have I tried to read a debt deal and had no idea what's going on? So we'll take the pieces in order, but there's about 7,000 seed stage companies getting formed every year. Many of them receive financing, 12,000 deals a year, and we're just going to start with the easiest parts and go on to the harder ones as we mature our technology stack. Roland, you're on mute. You're trying to. It looks like you're trying to talk. Okay, sorry, you can't hear me. Okay, so Allison is saying, she loves this for in-house teams too, that her business could really use this for term sheet summaries once they finish a deal, or standard deals and big partnerships. Have you thought about offering this as a subscription product to in-house legal teams?
Absolutely. I think that we're going to start with what we're starting with, but it's clear, I mean, I'm starting with what we're starting with predominantly because it is going to be the easiest place to start, and I understand the most about it. And the contracts are, it's the kind of thing where the contracts are really important. I mean, we're investing tens of millions of dollars, and they're also kind of easy. They're just, they're technical and dense and whatnot, but you know, they're not unknown creatures to us, kind of thing. I did this 20 times last week, and I'm going to do it 20 times more this week. So when it comes to in-house legal teams, the answer is yes, but it has to be a high volume contracting domain where we can see kind of what's going on. You know, it can't be, you know, we're not actually going to be able to help you if you're SpaceX negotiating with NASA. You know, like your contract's going to look different because you have to allocate the risks of the rocket exploding on the pad, and that's not a very common contract to write. You know, if you're signing an employment agreement and you're wondering, does your employment agreement have the latest form of the arbitration provision or not? That's a question we can help you answer.
So Aaron's asking a bunch of questions. You know, when and how when can I use it, and how much is it going to cost, and who pays for it? Is it going to be the investors or the entrepreneur? Yeah, we're sort of already over time. Maybe you can take maybe you can take this one, and maybe we'll take one more question after that. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Sure. So the good news for Aaron, I believe, is that I'm going to give it for free to anyone who's not an institution, because when people are using it and a lot of people like it and trust the analysis, that means that the institutions that have all the money will need to pay for it so that they can help negotiate against those other people. It's not really altruism. It's just a good business move. And also, I also truly believe that the most underserved individuals in the world deserve better legal services than having to call someone and get advice by the hour. I mean, I personally do not call lawyers, even though I'm a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, because every time I pick up the phone, I know it's just going to cost me like between $1,000 and $5,000 just to answer whatever the question is on my mind. So I really want to provide excellent, high quality, like canonical legal services to everyone who wants them. Now, when it comes time to be an institution and you have the capital to do it, and I know that you're going to go hire one of the big AmLaw 100 law firms anyway, then it's time to pay up a little bit more money, because I can give you better service, faster, more precisely, and with greater specificity.
So I think you're getting a lot of praise.
When can you buy it? When can you buy it? Probably in about 9 months is when if you go sign up for the wait list right now, we'll probably let you in about 9 months, roughly. Okay,
great. So I hope that you find some collaborators in this group. It certainly seems that folks are very enthusiastic about what you're working on. And folks, I'm sorry, we're a little bit over time already. So you see Stephen's email address here. So if you could maybe reach out directly to him with any follow-up questions, that would be great. And Stephen, let me thank you and congratulate you. I think it's a fantastic, exciting vision that you have, and I think you have everything it takes to make it a reality. And so please keep us posted, and we're cheering for you. And thank you to all the other speakers who spoke today. This was really a fun session. Everyone's working on great projects, and thank you for everything you do to keep sort of the momentum going and advance the state of the art in our field. And to everyone else, please tune in again next time. Susan, do we have a date set already for our next session, or
currently it's June 10th, but of course Roland will send out the announcement in due course, so we'll look forward to having people back next time.
Fantastic. All right, well, good to see you all. Thank you again, and see you next time. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.